So what are we doing, Charles?
So you are not meeting. You are having a conversation with a bunch of people.
Okay, because I only ask because I see other public participations on here.
Well, you've got a lot of people here, and if you're saying you only want to talk to the school committee in a private conversation, you can. I don't know whether you want to do that or not.
Well, I don't even really want to do that without the finance committee, but that's what we're going to do.
I understand that.
So we're going to have a discussion with Silver Lake and HES members. I believe that's all we're going to do tonight because we do not have quorum, and I don't really want to go into anything else without the rest of the finance committee here.
Okay.
So who wants to start first, the HES or the Silver Lake? Who feels? I don't have anything really. I don't have the HES budget in front of me. All I know is the actual percentages. But I don't have like details as to what's driving the percentages. So I didn't know if anybody could.
Should we focus on Silver Lake then, Fred, where we've got a budget to reference?
Right, because I guess, I could always come back and we could talk.
No, we can do the other one.
Going on Monday, Wednesday night. All right, so starting with Silver Lake, Tom and Joe, did you get the copy of the detail line items?
Yeah.
Yep.
Happy. So I thought we'd just go through this section by section, open it up to any discussions that you have or any questions that you have. So the first section was the school committee. It appeared that the bulk of that increase was being driven by legal costs. Is that correct, or is there something I'm missing there? I mean, that looks like it's 10.59% increase for legal and 10.59% audit for audit. And with regards to audit, the question I have is like with the town, we have to do an additional audit because of all the CARES Act money. Does that mean the school actually has an additional audit as well?
We don't have the additional audit because of CARES Act, but what we do is we have our traditional audit. We have what's called a single audit for any federal funds that we have. And then we also have to have an audit for the end of year report. I have to have a review of that done. And so those costs have been just exceeding what I had budgeted. So this year I added a little more than I had in the past. And then under legal, the increase there is because every 2 years we have to do an OPEB update of our census. So that's for the update of the census.
Okay. Joe, Tom, do you have any questions in section 1101 school committee?
No, I'm good there. Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay. Section 1201, which is office of the superintendent. The first thing that I wanted to ask is, was there across the board pay increase for employees? Because again, we try to look at the town employees, and if there's one at the school side, we see if we could try to match it. So I didn't know. I mean, I see a number that payroll went up, but when I look at other things like middle school teacher cost, that was minimal. So that was my main question: is was there a pay increase?
If there was a contract in place, I would have used that contract. So if there are individual contracts, I would have used the rates from those individual contracts. There has been a signed agreement with the teachers for this year and then the next 2 years at 1.6% each year. And they're currently negotiating with the support staff. And I had to build in a factor for that. Okay.
The only reason I ask is because the finance committee was asked to consider town employee raises, and we were giving different percentages. And again, it's been the past experience that whatever the school gets, we try to do the same on the town level. So I'm glad you told me the percentage, because now I can know where to focus in for when we actually take a look at that on the finance committee side. I didn't have any other questions on the office of the superintendent 1201. John, Tom, do you have any questions in regards to that section?
I'm good there. It's a small increase.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Wasn't overly too concerned, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Fred,
Yeah.
Oh, Gordon?
just one quick point
on the Silver Lake wages, Halifax doesn't necessarily match what Silver Lake gets for wages year after year because the 3-town system.
Correct.
The members should just be aware of that, that
Okay.
what Silver Lake gets doesn't necessarily dictate what the town gets.
No, but we look at that as a, a reference point when we
Yes.
have to take a look at it. So that was the important number. I did not have the percentage, so I did not know where to, I've been given some ranges of increases for the town, but I didn't even know where to start looking because I didn't know where the school number was. So that was my most important thing out of that. So again, utilities maintenance superintendent, I don't really see anything. 1241, anything, Joe?
No,
Uh,
no, I'm good.
all right, supervision services, 2101. It looks like there's a slight increase for travel, but that's kind of normal. Payroll went up quite a bit, 3.84%. And then the supervision payroll, 2.75. And then clerical payroll. So it looks like we had a pretty hefty payroll increase across all the lines.
Some of those may be step and lane increases as well as the cost of living increase.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, Joe?
Nope.
No, again, this one looks good.
Okay, so let's move on to section principal's offices, 2201. The biggest one in there was contact services. And again, that's the percentage. It really is a small number. So I really didn't have too much of a problem with that. Principals went up 3.21 for the high school and 2.51, but I assume that's contractual. So I don't think there's much there. Any other questions in regards to that section?
Nope.
No, good.
Okay. Getting down into instructional services, the big one was the high school aides at 18.69%. So, and then again, another payroll one. So did we, is that an additional, or is that for the same like staffing level?
Last year, we had built in for a paraprofessional that was going to retire, and the
Yep.
retirement did not end up happening, and the need still existed for that position.
Okay.
So she's still, that's an
Okay.
internal body.
All right. So like the year before was 181 and then to 147, assuming that the position was going to retire, which didn't happen. So we're back to the roughly the that we had the year before. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And there were some newer members there too, so they're at a lower step.
Okay. So Tom, Joe, any questions on instructional services?
Nope.
No, I'm just curious where I haven't had time to kind of go over. I'm just you kept this to 1.25, and if you've got a 1.6 agreed raise, is that turnover gain? Christine, just how did you
All
keep
right,
it
so
that way?
which account are you asking about?
2301 instructional services, or maybe that's, it is teachers. But
Sometimes we have some
That's the big one.
retirements. We have
Fine.
retirements that have been built in. So so that is the net at between retirements, cost of living, and step and
Okay.
lane.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Professional development, the percentage is so low. I don't have any questions. Joe, Tom, do you have any?
No, not at all.
Same with textbook programs are actually.
No, this one, I'm just curious. I mean, going down 13%. I know it's on a small number, but
Yeah.
It's
how
gotta
do
be,
you manage to do that? I'm just curious.
gotta be attributed to going online with a lot of the stuff, I would imagine, no?
But this would be the budget for next year, though. Well,
No,
we should
yeah.
be back to normal.
So Christine, line 2401, you got textbook programs going down by 13.5%. We're just curious how you pull that off.
Every year we look at the textbooks based on the needs of the schools and the principals. And this year their need is a little different. And as you mentioned, how oftentimes we're using some online components. Ironically, we're paying a similar amount for that we would be for textbooks.
Yeah, usually licensing is about the same. So it's
Mhm.
just, so this is just the books are good. The ones we got are good. So we're
And
good.
this is the current year, just what's happening in this current year. That's what the need is for 22.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so then we have instructional hardware, software lines, that's 2451. The biggest increase that I saw was the technology hardware of 40.34%. And then there's a, up here, it's software went up 35.59% for the middle school. Or no, that's just software school management. That's the management software. Wow.
As you can imagine, one of the significant contributing factors for this year has been, we now have been working on some remote platforms.
Yep.
And so some of those items have still been built in here to continue through for future needs for students. I don't know if you
So on
want to
tech
go into
tech
that.
hardware, is that to rebuild your infrastructure, Christine, or that's
That's actually buying,
laptops?
that's actually buying technology hardware.
Yeah, but is that laptops for kids or is that servers for?
It could
and
be
network?
everything. Servers we would traditionally have on our capital plan because they have a
Yeah.
much longer life and the dollar
That's-
value involved.
Yeah, that's
So
what I
this
was
would be
asking.
Chromebooks.
Okay.
Um,
It's more likely consumable stuff in a year, like Chromebooks for kids.
correct. They have a shorter lifespan.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for that section? Joe, Tom?
Just high school kids, I'm just struck by, the high school equipment repairs budget going down. High school kids and Chromebooks don't get along real well. So I was just curious how you pull that 30%. Is that realistic?
Well, we actually buy all of our Chromebooks with insurance so that if anything does happen, we can get them repaired.
Okay.
And we have a lot more newer devices right now. So we're expecting that some of those costs would go down.
Okay, thanks.
They've also been doing it for many, many, many years. So I think a lot of them are pretty used to having the Chromebook. So maybe a little bit more.
The kids, yeah, maybe they're more careful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Than my kids were.
Library services 2501 had a total increase of 5.13%. Looks like that was driven by a small wage increase on the librarian for the high school and supply material.
Yeah, I mean, it's on small base.
Yeah. I know you see the 5.3, but the numbers are
Yeah, it's on small beans.
kind of
Yeah.
small. All right. So Joe, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, let's see. Audiovisual programs 2601, that was level funded. So unless there's any questions, we'll move on. All right. Second, moving on to guidance service. 2701, that's got a 6.42% increase. Looks like it was looks like guidance middle school and guidance high school. I guess those are payroll increases. Guidance middle school, 15.3%. That's kind of going up with
Yeah, what's driving that, Christine?
yeah.
The one piece that I'm aware of is that we had somebody who had left and we had a replacement that came in at a higher step that we had expected, but we needed that set of skills for the needs at the middle school.
At $50,000.
I don't remember if there were any other changes there, Jill. Do you remember? I'm gonna.
But I could see coming in and, a little bit, but $50,000 difference seems a little high if it's just replacing one person. Seems very high if you're replacing only one person.
Is this line item just
Says ga-
payroll, Christine, or
It
is
is.
this?
That's for the guidance office at the middle school. That
Yeah.
one line.
So I think there were two replacements that occurred there. One for guidance counselor, maybe one school psychologist. Does that sound familiar?
It does.
And
I'm
both
actually
were
gonna-
hired at higher steps than we anticipated.
Yeah, I'm just looking through my salary summaries to see if anything jumps out at me.
So you split the two as roughly $25,000 increase for each person.
I think I'll have to get back to you on that because I just want to make sure my answer's correct. I don't want to,
Okay,
they start to blend after a while.
yeah, I get it. Yeah, there was also the increase, you had a smaller increase, but again, it was $32,000 high school. So between the middle school and the high school, that's $82,000 just in guidance increase. So yeah, we might have to come back to that one. Health services. This has got some big increases. So we've got obviously like the health supplies, I buy that.
Each of the schools built in a little extra just in case we continue to need PPE and things like that.
Yep. So I mean, the numbers are higher, but I kind of understand why in today's age. Tom, Joe, you got any questions on that one?
Are there any out trades maybe on PPE and COVID related stuff? Is there a CARES Act offset that might help us out here, or we don't think so?
There may be, we just don't know what all of those what will be available to us.
ERA is
We're
gonna-
different than the towns are. So
Yeah.
first we have to see what's available and then how we can use that within some of the things that may be already included in the budget.
Okay.
Is there any mental health services built in here, either in guidance or in health services? Kind of where does that sit? Just as well, the school psychologists all sit in guidance, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
So while the nurse middle school went up, the nurse leader went down.
We had a nurse leader in our FY21 budget, and the
Yep.
40,000 was the amount we budgeted for it, and we actually were able to get a nurse leader for a slightly lower salary.
Okay,
That's great.
that's nice.
She's full time,
No, that's a half-time
half
position.
time. Yeah, that's what. Okay.
I was gonna say if that was full time.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to figure out. That was a bargain.
Yeah. Let's see. So we have the next section is transportation. This is all level funded. So I don't have any questions on 3301. Tom, Joe, any questions there?
No, just curious why there's a separate line for homeless at the middle school. Oh, there's one for the high school too.
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
one for each school because we have to track that information separately and report that information separately.
Okay.
As a region, we receive some reimbursement on our regional transportation for students back and forth to school, which does not include homeless. Homeless has a different submission process.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is why I never worry about that number.
Yeah. Where does special transport sit?
For special education students.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the budget. Special education is
Okay.
that section of the budget.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
We'll get there.
Okay.
So transportation base contracts. Again, that went down. So again, I don't worry too much about transportation. There's not much we can do with that. Transportation other 3371. Again, I don't see any issues there. Food service line 3400 is also down. Then we come to 3511, my favorite, athletic services. So this is up.
Guys, before you go by
Yeah.
3400 food
Yeah.
service, I'm just curious with all the grab and goes and, food security issues with kids at home.
How did this happen?
Yeah.
Fortunately, we have a wonderful director here who's been able to do amazing things all last spring into the summer and this whole year. The director from Halifax has retired. And so our director is now taking over Halifax. So her salary is going to be shared among Silver Lake, Halifax, and Kingston.
It's great.
So
Okay.
we have a lot of consistency that we're picking up because of that.
Yeah.
And then so her salary will be charged the different entities based on their enrollment. And then that will end up with the savings here.
Got it. Thanks.
You're
It's
welcome.
great.
Joe, did you have any questions before we went down the athletic services? I kind of
No.
jumped around a little bit on people.
No, I'm good.
So again, all right. So getting back down to athletic services, 3511, we have increases in contract services, supplies and material. Quite hefty ones too. I was kind of curious about what that means, what all that is about.
The biggest driving force with this is that athletics has had a year of not raising any revenues.
Yeah, wouldn't that be under this year's budget though? Next year, they're gonna have revenue. And this is the budget for
Well,
next,
usually they would go into the year with some funds already in there, and then they're not getting those funds. So even this year, we've had to pay for things out of the operating budget that normally would come out of the revolving account for athletics. So we're preparing that their costs for next year will continue to be at a higher level.
see, the problem I have with this, is then you're gonna start charging people to attend the football games again. But we've already charged the taxpayers to offset the costs that they lost from the revenue. So this is where I have a problem. And again, you picked athletics. I mean, there's other people lost revenue. There was no revenue for band, no revenue for drama. I'm just kind of wondering why we're telling the taxpayers, well, we need you to pay for people not being able to attend games. That's where I have a problem.
Well, we're still having the games, and we still transport students to, to their hockey, to the
Yeah,
hockey.
and that would be under
Okay.
transportation costs. which-
Well, the trans-
So I don't have a problem with transportation costs.
Actually, it's actually under contracted services, high school athletic, that is where their transportation is.
So what's the transportation under athletics then? Is there, I mean, you have up further, you had transportation athletics, transportation band, transportation.
Oh, you're right. I was actually thinking that was the transportation. I'm sorry that I misspoke then. And this is then the area where they would pay for all the the officiating fees.
Right,
That's
so
in
if
the
it's a
hockey rink in Pembroke and things like that.
So this is ice time,
It's ice time, it's
referees.
pool time, it's the referees for all of the games. Yes.
Still,
It's like the CARES Act. You get the CARES Act to pay for food. So we don't charge anybody for food because of the fact that it's been paid for by the government. So this is where I have the problem, because it's like, okay, we're gonna increase revenue to pay for the fact that people weren't able to go to games. But is that fair to everybody? Because some people don't really care and weren't gonna go to the games anyways. And then we're gonna turn around and charge them in the fall anyways. So it's like we're charging them twice. We're gonna sit there and say, we need money to offset the costs in the budget, but we're still gonna charge you when you go to the games. I mean, if it was really that important, increase the price of going to the games. I just don't understand this one, because again, it's a normal operating year next year. People could go to the games. We should not be offsetting a loss this year into next year's budget. Do you have any?
how did we, I mean, maybe I take out a different angle. How did we cover the revenue deficit this year? We maintained the programs, right?
Yep.
We have maintained the programs, yes.
Yeah. So we're going into next year with small bank accounts.
Yes.
So is this a float? Because
That's what it seems like to me.
and I get that we need to replenish their bank accounts, but yeah, is it some sort of float? It sounds more like a financing arrangement than an expenditure. That you got a cash flow problem on the athletic programs.
So my biggest problem again is the fact that you're offsetting the cost of not going to the games next year when they're going to the games and paying to go to the games. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I think there's a lot of uncertainty for next year. And so we've built in trying to maintain our programs.
Yeah. What about drama, band, other for the kids that don't put on shoulder pads, etc. How do those programs get funded?
Those are also still continuing. Many of these programs are funded through student activity fees that they would pay.
Yep.
And athletic students do pay a fee to participate. It's just that in years past, we've had an offset for some of those costs being game revenues and things like that. And those game revenues just aren't there. The wish was to continue to maintain the programs.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a philosophy question, which is why I think we're trying to dig into it a little bit, because we're talking about $20,000 on a $26 million budget. But if other programs are being fairly represented,
I mean,
I don't know.
band.
It seems like there's a
revenue.
community opportunity here too. I mean, I've been in programs where, okay, parents, run a bake sale. Where there was community activity to cover these kinds of things, precisely because we didn't want to advantage the revenue generating programs as against the non-revenue generating programs. Or, I know that's a question of magnitude, but basketball and football are making the money, baseball and drama aren't.
Yeah,
I think also in addition, it's not just the revenues generated, it's the cost of certain programs, regardless of the amount of revenue that they generate or don't generate. And so you have some sports programs that are particularly expensive, and the revenues that have been generated in the past from the athletic department have been able to cover some of those costs so that they're not as visible, yet they still exist. And other sports are not as expensive.
Sure.
And are not.
So to Fred, and if I'm sort of thinking about with Fred's point and Christine's together, bank accounts are low. So in a sense, this is just shoring these programs up, and then to Christine's point about the uncertainty for next year in case the programs blow up. But this may be unnecessary. Possibly. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be funded. I'm just saying that it might be that this should. My sense is from everything I'm hearing, this shouldn't create a new baseline for 2022 because you're trying to cover a 2020 revenue deficit.
that's where I get a problem, because whatever we come up with here is the baseline for next year.
Next year, right? And so I guess that's the question. Absent.
And I don't
those
want to get into that
uncertainties-
habit of like, we're gonna fund programs when they still have money, just in case they run out of money.
Yeah.
Because see, that's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down.
Well, it shouldn't set a new base. I mean, I think if, Christine, maybe your comment on this, but I think it shouldn't set a new baseline for next year if what you are trying to do is shore up the fiscal health of these programs because of the revenue loss this year. If revenue comes back, then, this program that has effectively with this, we will have gone up 3.5x since whatever the year of that first line is.
Tom, what do you tell somebody who's basically at town meeting, I would sit there and saying, we need to pay, they didn't have revenue, so we're going to pay money for all that lost revenue. But then in the fall, you're going to have to pay revenue. You're going to have to pay to still go to the game. To me, it's like I'm being taxed. It's almost like twice. You know what I mean? If I want to go to the
Yeah,
So I mean,
that's why I see it
but
as
I've
a-
already paid.
Yeah, but
I see it as a cash flow.
I gotta
issue.
chime just for a second on that.
Yes,
Those
Joe.
programs ran the entire time. So all that stuff had to function without revenue. So you're not really asking the taxpayers to pay twice. You're asking them that their kids were able to participate in athletics for a year that they didn't get to go to. Right. So, I mean, and
Well,
this
they did. We just didn't get the revenue because I think the programs continued.
Right, I think that's what he's
Yeah.
saying. The programs did run
Right.
without that additional revenue.
That's what I'm saying. The program still had to run. The kids got to go to all these events and still
Right.
play. and
The question
participate.
I have is, did the program run out of money?
No, I'm not saying the programs have run out of money. I'm saying I've been tasked with presenting a budget that is reflective of us maintaining the programs that we currently have in place. And in the past, we've been able to contribute more towards some of these events through athletic revolving. And presently that situation does not exist or not exist to the same extent.
All right, I'm going to move on. Does anybody else have any questions? Tom, Joe?
No, good. Thank you.
All right, custodial services 4111. That looks like we have a slight decrease, so I have no questions there. Tom, Joe?
Oh, good.
No, I'm more just curious. I mean, isn't there a PPE issue here that you needed to cover? So, I mean, I'm impressed that you've kept it flat. I'm just curious how a million, it's sort of like health services, right? Is there nothing here that extra that needs to be done to keep the kids safe that would have cost us money?
Well, I can tell you, speak to the decrease. The decrease is mostly through payroll because we have had a change in this, the supervisory role in that
Yeah.
area, as well as we
I
had
got
some changeover in the staffing.
Okay,
Um, I know that we have been able to build up some of our reserves in the area of facilities for the cleaning products that we may need, things like that. We're in a pretty good place right now.
mhm,
And I think we're hopeful that there may be some continuing of some of those additional needs due to coronavirus.
from ARA, okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, so then next section is utility services 4131, which also had a decrease, so I have no questions.
Nope.
Tom, Joe?
Can't really run that one, and you got no choice there.
Yep. We have two sections, maintenance of grounds 4211 and maintenance of building 4221, both are level funded with no increases. Do you guys have any questions there?
Other than usually when you see level funding, that presumes you spent all the money in the past year, or, well, no, never mind. I don't have any questions. We're just curious. These could have been a place to save a few bucks, but perhaps.
Yep. Maintenance of equipment 4231 has a very, very, very tiny increase. I'm not worried about that at all. Tom, Joe?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, then we get into SE Tech Professionals, which has a modest increase of 3.95%. And then the bigger one, which is the SE Tech Other, which went up 31.87%. So I'm not too concerned about the first one. I kind of would like to know about the second one though. Yes.
In this category, what we've done is for this year, we had allowed the tech team to hire a tech paraprofessional. Because of all the additional devices that we have and all the students and staff that are remote, we haven't had a real need for this. And consider, even when we've been able to purchase new devices, they all have to be imaged, all the work that has to happen just to get them ready to go out to the school and the staff, to the students and the staff.
Spicy is a,
I'm sorry?
sorry, my mic's on.
So is that a new position that is being added?
So we are continuing that tech para person. It's 27,000 a year. And that's during the school year. That's the one addition. I believe that's the one addition to our budget.
Okay.
This is the Caesar problem,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Pretty much the same thing. Yeah.
I would also add that we asked our tech team to go through and make cuts equivalent to the cost of maintaining this position to prioritize what was more important in order to sustain this position, because the need for support was so great. And they provided those proposed cuts to the Silver Lake School Committee so that it was a zero net
Bit of a wash.
increase.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, if we're adding, and I get it, we talked to the Caesar effect is like poor Caesar, he's got so much work to do and he doesn't have enough hours of the day to do it. So.
Okay.
Employee benefits 5101, that's got a big increase of 5.96. That looks like mostly the Plymouth County assessors retirement, or
Yeah, that's the Plymouth County annual assessment.
That's
All
for the DB plan? For
This is
the
for the,
retirement plan?
Yeah, contributing towards the pension for the non-teaching staff.
Got it.
Yep. Insurance services 5201. I don't have any questions. Anybody else?
Again, I mean, I never see unemployment go down. Did you get a betterment in your experience rating, or how'd that happen?
Actually, in the municipalities, we don't participate that way. We pay as you go. So as an event happens, we pay the unemployment.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Got it.
And although we had some challenges at the beginning of the year due to some fraudulent claims and things like that, it's really leveled off.
Okay,
And
thanks.
and we're building our budget based on we would continue to have our staff, that we would not have any future layoffs for this year.
Okay. Contracted services, leasing, rental lease equipment, 5301. So that's a 54.76% increase. Looks like it went up. Looks like it's been consistently around $9,000 a year, and it jumped way up to 13,000.
Our CTE area, the vocational area, they have vehicles that allow them to bring students to on-site jobs. And the vehicle that we had was getting very old and was no longer going to be in compliance with the current standards for a vehicle that would be transporting children to sites like that. So we had to get a new vehicle, a new lease, and a vehicle that was in compliance.
So
Okay.
you're leasing that vehicle?
We do lease
Interesting.
the vehicle,
Great,
yes.
okay.
All right, then. Joe, you have any questions there?
Nope.
Okay. Replacement of equipment, 7401. Looks like we, let's see here. 68.8% increase, but that's all being driven by that third one down, replacement of equipment, which went from 0 to 15,700. So,
Here we started zero with that, and as there are equipment needs, that's where these are the items that aren't significant enough to be in our capital plan. You know,
yeah.
so they could be copiers, it could be things of that kind of scope.
So is that like a new line item for this year, and that's why it's been zero along?
No, it's just that that line actually where it's been zero until this year that's the vocational area. So they just haven't had purchases in that line for several
Okay.
years.
All right. I mean, all we see is replacement of equipment. I'm like, it got cut off, so I can't see what the rest of it is.
And for the vocational area, that's traditionally like equipment that's in the shops.
Okay. Tom, Joe?
All set, thanks.
Okay, the next section, which is
Special ed.
supervision, and then we also have special ed teaching services, and then we have special ed psych services. To me, special ed, I don't get into what the costs are. So
I'm
unless
just
you
curious,
guys-
the site costs going down. It looks like you internalized something that you're outsourcing, or how did that happen, Christine?
We have had students attending Independence Academy. It's
Yeah.
run by Northwood Collaborative. It's a recovery program.
Yeah,
And we had 5 students in during FY20 in that program. So I had built in a sufficient balance to cover that. This year, we did not have any students in the program.
Okay.
So I've left an allotment in case we do end up having students there so that we would have some funds to cover that.
got it, thanks.
Okay. Joe, any questions?
Nope.
All right, and special transportation, line 9233 again, it's a 2.05% increase, and I mean, that's a 25.0
Yeah.
increase, and just transportation costs keep going up, so I don't have any questions there. Tom, Joe?
Nope.
No, it's actually, I mean, but it is a 50% rise. Is that volume? It's 46.6 for transportation. To the high
Actually, that
school.
we've had to switch one of our providers for some of our specialized programs, and the cost for that has been significant, but it was a necessary change.
Yeah, it's
Thanks.
almost double what we were 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, any other questions regarding this budget as presented, Tom or Joe?
No, I'm good. Thanks for all your information. Thanks very
right.
much.
Do you have any other questions regarding any of the articles for Silver Lake, which would include the resource officer and the tennis courts off the top of my head?
Well, I think just the conversation that we had last week about the resource officer and funding that through the capital plan. I mean, you know, Fred, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I mean, I think we were pretty well aligned that it just didn't make sense to us that this seems like an operating expense, actually seems like an operating expense for public safety, not for schools. So it would be great to hear your perspective on that.
My position,
No, I mean, Christine or someone else about.
yeah, I know, I just want to say, my position's
Sorry.
always been that all the resource officers, including the Kingston one, it should be part of the operational budget. Kingston shouldn't be paying for that officer by himself. it should, a part of that should actually be part of Halifax.
Yeah, we agree. It's just having it as a capital plan just seems
Yeah.
to me it's a tenuous relationship. Then you got to recapitalize it every year.
For us, the struggle has been the mechanism because as Fred just mentioned, Kingston does allow an officer to be in the high school without charging the school district, so that we don't pay for that at all. And when there was a need for the middle school, this was the mechanism that we could help find a method to fund that without having Kingston donate an officer, then pay for another officer. So I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. I just don't know what a better way is based on the current
Well,
set of circumstances.
I know, I know at least Charlie pointed out at least one other school district that was doing it differently. And again, it should be a shared cost.
Yeah, I think we all agree that. So Christine, what you're saying is there's no mechanism for us to reimburse Kingston Police Department.
Well,
but why wouldn't we just have it in the operating budget for the region, and then we take our fair share, just like we're doing now?
If we added the cost of that to Silver Lake's budget, that would increase Kingston's assessment, and Kingston is already giving us an officer they're not charging us for.
Yeah,
So
but again, you see, that doesn't work. I'm saying you take all the resource officers, you split the cost amongst all the towns. This free Kingston officer, that's not fair to Kingston. It should be.
Yeah.
Right. So if you
I agree.
share the cost of all the resource officer, that goes away. That argument disappears.
You know, we met a couple of years ago on this, must be at least 2 years ago or so. And I believe it was all 3 towns. I was not at that meeting, but I know that it was a challenging meeting. We would be happy to look at this again. Part of one of the barriers we have to overcome is resource officer is not a 12-month position. It's while school is in operation.
Yeah.
There's some challenges from the police officer benefits, etc. Viewpoint that come into play as well. It seems like something that should be really easy to do, and yet we've struggled with it. I will tell you that I would be more than happy to have the 3 towns get together again and try and figure this out to come up with a better way.
Well, all I can say is other districts do it. And so there is a way of doing it. And again, I was in those meetings many years ago too. And Jason specifically told me that if we got it passed through the first year, he would do everything he could to get this funded properly. And now we are 3 years later, and it's the same thing. And so our position on the finance committee is, yeah, we acknowledge the need, but we're not gonna vote yes on it because the funding is wrong.
We have also looked at other methods of doing this, and we had looked, I think it's Old Colony, where they're a region as well as a union in a setup similar to how we are. And the police department, one of the town that they're actually located in, that police department pays for the officer and then bills the other towns directly, and the towns reimburse that police department. So that's how their method has worked.
I mean, the equitable thing is to actually split the cost, because again, Kingston's getting screwed paying for that full-time officer. So I would think that Kingston would be on board having Halifax and Plimpton reimburse their cost for that full-time resource officer as well. I don't see what their problem would be. I don't get it.
I mean, again, we would be more than, I'm speaking, you know, assuming that the committee and everybody would agree with me, but we'd be more than happy to look at this again. I think the most important thing is that we have a resource officer in that building for our students.
I think we all agree that. And
yeah, I have no problem with that argument.
And my sense as the newest member here, I wasn't in those meetings that Fred and you are describing, is just the tenuous nature of doing this through the capital plan. That if we build it into the budget somehow, whether it's a reimbursement mechanism to the Kingston Police Department, or some other, which is the way I've seen it done in the past, then that would be a more equitable and sustainable way to do it.
And if you build it into the operating budget, it's not an article that the town's going to up or down vote every single year. You get some consistency.
That's the sustainability thing.
Completely agreed, completely agreed.
It looks
So how
like
do we-
Gordon has a question.
Gordon,
Okay, Jordan.
So we had asked if we could have had added another line to the operating budget where the money would sit under for SRO previously, and that was not advanced. But that's the other way to include it in the operating budget.
Yeah.
You put it as a subline under police and safety, or you put it on schools. But either way, if you put it as a line there, it could be included. It wouldn't have to be an article.
that's what I want to get away from is the article.
Yeah.
Because
That's
you
exactly
have a
what we're
bad
thinking.
year and it gets voted down. We all agree it's needed. So you're playing that Russian roulette game if it's an article, because again, you get a lot of seniors that come in 1 year or something like that, and it's bad economically, and it gets voted down. We also needs to be done. So
Yeah.
to an operating budget where we can make sure that it gets done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. I would love to not bring it forward as an article.
Okay.
If we could find another mechanism.
So
All right,
Gordon,
Tom.
maybe, I think Gordon Gordon hit on the rub here, though. Why was it not advanced to open another line on the general ledger on the budget? Do we know that?
There you go. Yes, Gordon.
It was a question over how it should be funded and how it moved forward. There was questioning on whether or not there would be a grant that covered SRO officers that was supposed to be 3 years ago. Kingston would be the only community that could apply for it because Kingston has the schools within their municipal bounds.
Right.
So they offered the one officer. They asked that Halifax and Plimpton contribute towards the middle school officer at halftime. And that was the only solution that we could move forward with. There were, one of the thoughts was to have an officer from Halifax and Plimpton go over to the middle school as well. But that was turned down because the police chiefs were talking about having continuation of having the officer that goes to the elementary school go to the middle school and high school and work to put it on programs and things. And that was something we had talked about. But the issue with the way the law is written is that it has to be a Kingston officer.
Sure. There's jurisdiction issue there too. I mean.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Tom, Joe, anything else?
That was great. Thank you.
Okay. That takes care of Silver Lake, I believe, unless anybody
Brett.
has anything else.
Excuse me, I don't know whether you wanted to talk about, there was also the tennis court, and then there was, I believe they were asking for an article regarding a stabilization fund for Silver Lake.
Yeah, I mentioned the tennis court. I don't think Tom or Joe had any comments on that because Matt met with us the other day, right? You guys are good with that, right?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard whether or not we were pursuing the stabilization article or not, so.
Well, I guess that's a question for them, are they?
Okay. So,
Joe?
guys, is Silver Lake pursuing adding an article for a stabilization fund? That's the question, right, Sandy?
Yeah.
Okay. Jill, can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Our school committee has discussed it. They have not voted it. They're bringing it to the towns. And in looking at, I believe we've also provided you with capital plans for the past several years. In looking at the continued needs of maintaining our building versus some of the bigger projects that are coming our way. We don't want to neglect our building needs. And a stabilization fund would be one of the ways that we could try to prevent and help continue to maintain our buildings, but also take care of some of these projects that are coming up as needs.
Okay. Any other questions, Sandy?
No, I think then we just still wanted to talk about the articles for Halifax Elementary.
Right. So the last questions that we did a pretty good in-depth coverage of the articles with Matt on Wednesday. I do see that there's some new information with regards to estimates for the air conditioners. So I'd like to open that up, Tom, or especially Joe. Do you guys have any questions regarding those proposals? I was really interested in your opinion, Joe.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up real quick on the computer, but
Yeah.
I
That's one of
think
the
you
questions
also,
I had was, are we cutting into the new roof?
yeah, I mean, that's the only question, Matt. I think, I know you're on there. So how old is that roof at Hess?
Brand new.
Brand new, right? It was last year or the year before?
No, 3 years ago.
3 years ago. So if they're gonna penetrate through, who's gonna own the warranty?
So I reached out to the roofing company that did that project.
Yeah.
So I have a quote for that, which is there's one roof penetration.
Yeah.
Both of those units. So that's between $500 and $700 for that roof penetration, and the company that installed the roof will be doing that.
Okay.
So they'll maintain the warranty through that.
Okay.
That's
That's good.
my biggest concern.
Yeah, you're good there.
So that's for the art room. And so I also met with an electrical contractor out there today to get some hard numbers on tying it into the panel.
Mhm.
So we're looking at $975 each unit to tie into the panel. So with the roof penetration, the electrical, and the AC install for the art room, we're at $9,425. For the computer lab, the total is $9,115. That's just the electrical. We don't have to make a roof penetration there because we're going to run the piping out of the exterior wall and put it on a mounted wall bracket on the exterior of the building. So that will save us one roof penetration. That $975 is the high end of the electrical. There is a panel in that same hallway that it's possible we may be able to tie into. If that's the case, then that number will drop dramatically. If it's not possible to make that connection there, which is a 30-foot run, we'll be looking at about just over 100 feet to run it down the hallway into the electrical closet above the garage.
Okay. So worst case scenario is what? And best case scenario is what?
Worst case scenario is $9,115 for the computer lab. Best case would be $8,500 there. Worst case for the art room with the one roof penetration with the roof company holding up the warranty is $9,425. And best case would be somewhere in the $8,700 for that.
Okay.
So Matt, if I'm hearing you right, we're talking about the air conditioning for the art room and the lab coming to $18,540.
That's what I have.
Which is different than the article. The article is sitting at around 11.
Right. So am I increasing that number, Matt?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So the increase this is a March 25th proposal. Obviously, costs of materials have gone up dramatically, and that reflects that increase there. Also, this new number shows the electrical work and the roofing work that needs to be done.
Yep.
Okay. I'm putting it in at 18,600 because there's always some change.
And I'll bring it up at our next meeting so that we can revote on it.
Right. And did you want to talk about the hallway flooring? Because that came in a little confusing. It was really low and then it went up to the 12,000. So if Matt could just let us know what was going on with that.
Sure, so the number we want to present is, for the total of that, flooring in the kindergarten is 11,783. That is our low quote. And that is utilizing the flooring material that was already used in the cafeteria, called Indestructible. It's, it comes with a lifetime warranty, and it holds up. And the square footage, because there was questions on the square footage.
That was my biggest thing, is the square footage increased by, 50%.
Correct, yes. So what, those two quotes that I sent over originally were a proposed project in that same location. Until we walked around with the building committee, and the idea of using that cafeteria floor tile seemed to go over very well for that area. It's kind of like put it down and forget about it. And like I said, lifetime warranty on that. So so that was the direction we were going with that $11,000 quote, 11,700.
I guess the question I had, Matt, was, originally the square footage was like 850 square feet.
I
Correct.
believe what they were doing is part of it was going to be carpet squares and part of it was going to be vinyl. So I think you were only looking at half for each quote. So the entire floor. Am I
Well,
right,
so
Matt?
Sandy, I think the quotes were 850 and 850. It was an either or quote. So there was,
Well, it
it was
looks like
Oh, I
either go
thought they were
DC,
added together.
that would be 1,700 feet.
So those two quotes have been taken off the table as far as the school's approach, and they'd like to go with the full indestructible silver oak vinyl plank flooring through the whole hallway.
Through the whole hallway.
Through the entire hallway.
Okay.
All that VCT would go away.
Okay.
So Matt, what's the square footage on that?
1150.
1150.
Got it, okay.
Yep, that's good. And you got, that's from who again?
Flooring
Designs. Yep.
out of Brockton.
Yep.
And one of the other items we discussed was the exterior lighting. And I had mentioned that the Green Communities quote was a very large number.
Yeah.
It involved trenching through the parking lot. Scott Materna has gone out and received a couple of quotes for light poles. And like I said, we're way under the 10,000, so it's not really a capital plan. We can absorb that out of our operating budget with the school. We're looking at $500 for a 3-headed post cap. So that should increase our lighting in that parking area.
So existing light poles, Matt?
Correct.
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the one unknown is the size of the wire in those poles. So going to an LED light, it's going to draw less. So the theory is by increasing the light heads, we should still have enough power to bring out to that pole. But again, we won't know until we attempt that replacement.
So do you want to leave that article on the warrant, or do you want to take it off at this point?
No, I think we could take that off for the exterior lighting.
Great.
And we already had the hall at 12,000.
We had the hall at 12,000.
Yep, replace hallway floor.
Oh yeah, that's right, because it was like kind of an
Yeah.
add and add. That's
Right, so that number looks right considering it's 11,783, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Matt, just for purposes only, just informational. If you press back on him, and you could save $500 on the removal.
Oh, on the kindergarten floor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this contractor works with us. They bend over backwards to work with us and have through the history of my professional relationship with them. So, anything that we propose, I'm sure they'd be willing to work with us.
Yeah, I mean, I have, like, I have union guys telling me $1 a square foot, and that's in the worst case scenario.
I'm hesitant to break up a project like that just because, one group removes.
Oh, no. Don't break it up. I'm just saying, I think you could probably muscle a couple bucks out of them if you had to. But that's good.
I'll propose that.
It's a tough conversation, I know. But it looks good though. The price is actually pretty good for the materials as well. Really good. So I'm a purchaser, so I'm always looking for the buck.
Yeah.
I understand.
All right. So did we cover everything for Silver Lake? Is there anything else that I've missed?
Jill?
Jill's got her hand up.
Hi, Jill.
I know we have one line item that we're going to get back to you on with a middle school line item. Would you also like additional information with regards to the athletics to maybe break it down how we got to this number for this year? Are you looking for more detail, or is it just a philosophical?
Well, it would be
issue?
nice, like, if you sit there and say, we're almost broke, we don't have any real level fund. If you come back and sit there and say, oh yeah, we have this much, and now we're down to like 10%, and we're concerned that that's not going to cover it, then I can buy it. If you come back and say, oh yeah, we're down, but we're only down 30%, then I have a harder time with it. So yeah, any additional information that you can provide, that certainly goes a long way toward helping us understand what's going on.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Tom, Joe, last chance on the Silver Lake. Okay.
Good.
Good. All right. So I'd like to thank the Silver Lake folks for coming tonight. I greatly appreciate all the information that you've given to us. We don't have a lot of details with regards to the HES budget. All I know is that it's a roughly 3.4% increase. But if Gordon wants to let us know what's driving that, I would love to chat.
I guess I would defer to Christine right now while I search for my version of.
I do have my copy of my budget in front of me.
I don't have it, so I can't look at it.
You want me to try to? Or this is still the first version. Did you have a copy of the first version of the budget for Halifax?
February 12th, yeah.
So that version, that has not changed. It's still
Okay.
the same version. We have not made any cuts yet to that budget.
Okay, let me find that one then.
Pull that up.
Christine, when are they meeting on the budget next?
I believe it's Monday, April 5th.
5th?
Monday, April 5th is our next meeting, yeah.
So what should we be looking for? I see all the PDFs from back on January 15th.
So
The
that-
budget proposal and the fiscal year 20.
The one that was sent was dated December 30. On the bottom left-hand corner, it's dated December 30th. The actual report that's the current budget.
I don't know if I have that one.
Yeah, I don't think we ever got it, because if you
No.
open the budget proposal, it has that short narrative.
That's
that-
all I got.
Yeah, it's dated 11/2. We actually don't have it. I think we got the wrong file initially somehow. Because it says budget proposal 2021, but it's a November 3-page narrative. It's
It
not.
looks like the public proposal that I
Yeah.
saw when I attended it.
If you would like to, if you could wait a moment, I can go scan this in and send it to Linda, and then they could disperse it out. Do you want to do that?
I wouldn't mind. It's hard to have a conversation when I don't know where any of the line items or anything are. All I know is it's an increase. So
I'll do that right now.
Thank you.
yeah. Hey, Jill, do we have an MCAS date yet?
We have a range of possibilities, but not for the high school, no. Are you
Okay, I
talking
was
about the high school?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My
Nothing
wife was
is,
just asking me, we're trying to, plan out when we're gonna get vaccinations. And we're like, well, we're gonna run into AP tests and MCAS tests, and I don't have any of these dates. Like,
so, let me just pull this up for you right now.
we're not sure the wait till the end of like, end middle of May or,
So grades 3 through 5 will be May 10th through June 11th.
okay,
For 2021, students will only take one session for each subject area test. Grade 6 through 8 in the high school is still forthcoming.
okay,
So if you're looking at, we're probably looking, if it's going to happen, I would assume it's going to be around the same time, only because there's so very little dates left in the school year.
yeah,
And they're not even
Sounds like-
anticipating bringing the high school back until May.
yeah. Yeah, it looks like, because it looks like the AP tests were like the week starting the 3rd. Literally, they come back and they get right into AP tests that week and,
There's a lot of groups lobbying against MCAS testing for this year, in the sense that there are other means of kind of getting benchmark assessments done in terms of determining where students are academically without having them sit for an MCAS test during a year that they've already missed so much in-person
Yeah.
learning.
well, I have a junior, so then of course the concern would be, does he have to take the MCAS as a senior to graduate? Because he just assumed get it out of the way. So,
Right, so then the other plan is to offer it both this year and next, for students in that predicament, and then,
yeah, he's switching. He's like bouncing all over the place. He's got AP tests. He knows he has that, and then he's got the SAT, which is coming up in May as well. It's like,
I would anticipate information on the high school in about a week
okay,
from the commissioner. It doesn't, I mean, this is per usual with regards to how changes rolled out, and then we jump through the hoops to make it work, unfortunately, this year. And some of it couldn't be, can't be avoided.
Yep.
But at this point in the year, there are some things that we had hoped to have more information on sooner rather than this late in the game.
Linda, did you get it?
I just sent it to him. Yep, thank you.
oh, cool. Let me go to my Outlook. There it is. Do you guys get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Woohoo. All right.
So the first 2 pages are the summarized version.
Yep.
You'll see the operating budget is brings you to the increase of 3.41%.
Yep.
And then
So-
the next page is the special education components.
Yeah,
Special
which is-
education transportation is level for right now.
Yep.
Tuition has a significant increase based on that's our current roster of students.
Okay.
That's using a circuit breaker reimbursement of 55%. Halifax has had a tough year. We've had a couple of move-ins this year that are impacting the budget. So we could probably increase the circuit breaker a little bit. We couldn't go too far with that.
Yeah.
And then out of district vocational, the budget that's there is 156,500. That's the same as last year because students have until April 1st to apply.
Mm-hmm.
And we had one returning student, and as of today, I just checked the log of what we have applied. We have one returning student plus 3 students that have applied. So that's 4 in total, and they have until the 1st, Thursday. If things stayed the same, we would probably be able to make a reduction of maybe $30,000 because the 156,000 is about 5 spots.
Okay. And April 1st is being this week, and we have to vote on everything by Monday. So that would be good to know the good number, the correct number. Textbooks is pretty up there, almost doubled. I know we got like textbooks. Is that, I can't remember the whole thing with the textbooks last year.
This is a large portion of this would be the ELA program, which is sunsetting. It's not going to be available after this year.
Okay,
And so Melissa Farrell has been looking at ELA programs, and the issue with our ELA textbook programs is that most of them are online now. So what you would have spent in textbooks, you're now spending in
I
on
see.
an online program that eventually they phase out or no longer offer, unfortunately. Or
okay.
fortunately, as you would hope that your curriculum changes, but from the financial perspective, it's not really
Yeah, it's, as long as there's an explanation, like for instance, we changed the math curriculum changed, so we got it, we
Yeah.
ended. But I'm just focusing on the big increases, and that's one of them. Technology, obviously, it's 33.14. So I assume is that hardware, software under technology?
So based upon what I know, I don't have the line items in front of me
Yeah, I
that
could go
Christine
down
has,
section.
but it's,
Hardware was the big one.
Hardware was the biggest increase, yes.
Okay,
so there
Triple.
are some things that could not be paid for with CARES money. Remember, if it was part of your budget and you cut it, you couldn't use CARES. If it was, there are certain things that were part of replacement costs that would be included in this. And then there's also software items. I don't know if we're on that line item though, Christine, you'd have to correct me. But our software also for remote learning is also a technology cost that I would anticipate as an increase without the numbers in front of me.
yeah, it says software school management, which a 23.27% increase.
Yes.
The
And that's the
tech management is
platform that we
interesting.
use for remote learning, but it's also a tool that teachers can use regardless of whether they're remote or in person.
Okay. That looks fine. Do you guys see anything you want to talk about?
No, I mean, really just getting it, but I think you hit on the big ones, Fred.
Yeah,
Yeah, nothing big. I mean, the building supplies, that was a huge increase, but it's small
but it is what
dollars.
it is. Yeah,
Small dollars, so.
yeah. And again, special ed tuition, like it is what it is.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I don't see anything crazy.
yeah, I don't either. Looks pretty good, actually.
Yep.
All right. Well, anybody else have any questions on it?
Christine, when did you said there was another iteration of this coming?
The school committee has not made any cuts as of yet. They've, I think they were trying to, what they could cut versus what the town might be looking for in cuts. I think that was, we were trying to make that work. And also time is an element, whereas like the out of district vocational piece, we really couldn't make any cuts until we got close to that April 1st deadline so that we knew, what we were able to cut.
I definitely would like the updated number as of the first deadline. But
And maybe just on special ed, just a question, I mean, it's about $250,000 going up. Is that payments to other jurisdictions? Is that Halifax programs? How is?
The tuition line is budgeted by students, so it's every student that's in an out-of-district placement.
Yeah.
But that it includes whether it's a collaborative, a private placement, or residential placement. It also includes the students from Halifax that participate in the programs that are run by Silver Lake, for instance, preschool.
Yeah.
So we have a program that's been developed based on students' needs, and we have a combination of students from Halifax, Kingston, and Plimpton that attend that. And they come up with a tuition rate based on the cost divided by the number of students.
Got it. Thanks.
So that's also included in that.
Okay. No, I'm good, Fred.
okay,
I'm good.
I'm good as well. All right, then. That was easy. I like that one. All right, if nobody else has anything school related, then I think we can sign off for the evening. And then we'll, Tom, Joe, if you've got things points that you want to make on Wednesday when we're all meeting, feel free, just let me know what you guys want to talk about. I know, Joe, you're probably more the expert on, the contracts, the costs for some of these articles.
Discussion, yeah,
So I
yeah.
defer to you for that.
Brett, I just as a side note, I told Linda, I don't know, I got a hard stop on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's fine.
And my first dose is at 5:30, so I might be grumpy, guys. But that's all right.
Okay, in that
Thank you.
case, I guess we will sign off for tonight, and I'll see at least Tom, Joe, and a few other people on Wednesday. And thanks
All
for
right.
coming and giving us all this great information.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
you all.
you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you, everyone.